We ask ourselves in this video today, what is a mindful, intentional community? I'm going to be taking a look at how realistic it is for some of us to find something like that. I need to start by explaining that intentional community is something that you can even say that our system is. Various social artificial constructs are, by definition, intentional communities. Even if they're committing crimes against other people. Organized crime, you could even say, in some of these gangs. And gangs in the future, doing things to people that aren't able to defend themselves, that are in dangerous areas. You could say that those are members of intentional communities. So we talk about a mindful, intentional community. It does make sense for people to work together. There are certain challenges and barriers that we should be aware of. There are counterfeits that are out there. This video is really more of a follow-up to another video. I'll go over some basic points. I made this several years ago while moving my RV around and experiencing certain challenges when visiting certain people. I came to understand that you need to be very careful when dealing with so-called, quote-unquote, intentional communities, because a lot of people are out only for themselves. Some people are very immoral, unethical, deceitful, rich with drama, not what they appear to be on social media. Some people set up social media pages for particular things that they liken to some sort of a Garden of Eden of sorts. Claim that they have all the solutions to all the world's problems. Very grandiose. And a lot of things, I think it's good to think big. So I'm not entirely demonizing the idea of thinking big. How it comes across with certain individuals that they think that their way is the only way, that their ideas are the only ideas of value. That's where the personalities come in and cause the complication. So when we talk about, from my opinion, and your opinion is valid as well, but it's more than just being able to build something or being able to fire a gun, for example, or to be able to grow a certain kind of food in a certain kind of climate. Healthy relationships between men and women are at the cornerstone of the whole mindful, intentional community idea. I also wouldn't call like the Rainbow Family Gathering or other groups where people get together basically to have a good old time as a mindful, intentional community that is good for all people. If people are coming together over a certain idea, and I know what on paper the Rainbow Family Gathering is supposedly all about, and there's also a reality, and that's not to demonize, but to show certain groups that have been operating for a number of years are not exactly the groups that you or I or others may want to have anything to do with if the you-know-what were to manifest in our world. And mutual respect is the number one cornerstone for a mindful, intentional community. You need to be able to trust people. Your field, your energy field needs to be clean and clear of anger and resentment and control. And some people aren't aware that other people can see through their own particular manipulations, the games that they play with people. And so they may not even be aware of it, but certain people out there that are involved in organizing and looking for volunteers and looking for people to live on their large acreage, to build lots of structures, they may not even realize the master-slave relationship attributes that they're bringing to the table in their dealings with others, what others get for the labor put in. Now, fortunately, I never got deep into any intentional community, but in my travels, and I would say we're going back at least to the 2012 time period. Also prior to 2012, I was looking, traveling, doing videos on bugging out. I was living in Oregon then, and traveling to different survival school instructors where I was simply focusing on filming their the instructions they were sharing with their students. From the bow drill to identifying edible plants, to how to properly use a knife, and some stuff wasn't even fully uploaded that still is in a box somewhere in Oregon with a lot of other footage from the earlier days that's never been uploaded. And later on, as I left Oregon, I'm going to tell a few stories, but be brief. I found myself in Costia County, Colorado. And I met some interesting people there, some good people as well. And also some complicated situations where I was willing to volunteer my labor. And there was one individual, I have a video, I'm No One's Slave, and that is on my YouTube channel. And I realized that just being willing to work for someone, a random person in an off-grid environment, and you don't know anything about his or her history, there's a lot of us, especially when we're young and we never really had off-grid or communities where people were building things. So we can be fairly naive even in our 30s. And so every day I would drive 10 miles to dig for an older guy, older gentleman, big-time Bible thumper, but I didn't use that against him. I shared some of my ideas as well. But there was so much of him wanting to build his own Rome, like sounded like his own empire, as he would describe wanting to ride around in a chariot, like the biblical days, after his temple was built. And it was a little bit odd, just the general tone, and then the rantings got crazier and crazier, and that was not something that I was up to be indoctrinated into. There's no one else around me. He was just going through different young people saying, well, I'm going to die soon and leave the property to you. And that's not something that I wanted to hear, nor was I there for that. I wanted true friendship, mentorship, a positive relationship with an older male to show me how to build. And I sought that out many, many times in my life. And I've been burnt by people with deep sociopathic tendencies, looking for a young buck. And it could be said that I just simply haven't found the right mentors, and that they are out there. So, in my early 30s, I was visiting people like this and others that I believe have questionable intentions, and were not nice people. And I'll tell you that there are people out there that will present themselves as people that will have all the answers to all the world's problems. And whether they know it or not, they have an agenda to, if they are able to make people their slaves easily, they will. And it's as if, listen, I believe that we are souls that happen to be animating physical flesh. We're not really the body. We're not really our genetics. And we're living in a world of racism and judgment that wants to tell us that we are our genetics, or we are a artificial rating system set by man with the consensus reality of Vox Populi. That is the matrix. And that matrix is screaming to us in a very loud and belligerent manner at this time. Mindful intentional communities will have men and women that respect the ideas of other men and women. They won't hear something go, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. That sounds something that sounds like a fear-mongering doomsday. And then you look at the world today. Are we or are we not inching closer to a potential conflict between the West and the East? It doesn't take the average person very long to come up with an answer. The question is not if, but when. I've already put out my projections for the mid-2020s for the heaviest of the heaviest and stuff we can potentially see here at home. So I see a purpose in intentional communities. That could be another question that we ask ourselves. What would be the purpose of an intentional community? Intentional who? A mindful intentional community. No, not a cannibal gang like some out of Mad Max that burns, loots, and rapes, where it all collapses. I think there's going to be those types of intentional communities. I think when some people say they're excited about the, hitting the fan, I wonder why they're excited. I wonder why that guy's riding around in Portland, I saw this 10 years ago, with a zombie apocalypse response team vehicle, acting like he's all cool, big and badass, playing too many video games, literally bars in the window in the back. Some people are looking forward to a future, maybe they can just call that hottie a zombie. Well, you know what we do with zombies, right? And it's like, I don't think people, I'm going to come back to the idea of the predictive programming for the collapse, because that's there as well. There was a History Channel mini documentary called American Blackout. And I was thinking about playing some clips regarding that. And it's a terrifying depiction of the moment when the lights go out, whether it's a temporary situation, as depicted in the documentary, kind of featuring in a fictional sense how people might respond They actually used a clip for G4T, believe it or not, in this History Channel American Blackout episode. So using like fictional videos where people are acting as if the lights are out, and they're you know, filming with their handy cams how people are responding to that. It should be said as well, and I noticed this in the comment section earlier. Someone said that they're looking forward to the idea of civilization resetting itself, whether this is caused by, again, by a pole shift, solar flares, an asteroid. I think all these things, those things I just mentioned, and more. Earth changes, major weather changes, major droughts, major flooding. We're facing major fire threats here, by the way. There is, it's almost 10,000 acres. But there's a wildfire burning within proximity of southern Colorado. This is not good. Other types of fires could pop up like that. So yeah, I think that we are on our way out, civilization-wise. I'm going to be making another video on that, and featuring something that one of our viewers from Australia has put together recently on the fall of civilization and the need for mankind to wake up. And I think that this idea of mindful intentional communities, he placed a lot of emphasis on permaculture and things of that nature. And I see things like that as very, very important. Today, we've been very, very distracted by the internet, and the internet should be a greater tool to help us facilitate the real meetups. I've been saying this for over 6 years. So going back to some of my personal life examples, I've traveled around to certain places without knowing any better, and ended up in situations with fairly belligerent individuals that had their own agenda that were routinely going through people. In another instance, see, there's an organization called Woofing. I found that Woofing, where they help people that just want to donate their labor so they can just be around growing vegetables. At least that's my understanding of it. People can easily be used and turned into slaves if they have, like, just they don't have a place to live in the city and they're willing to literally camp in the dirt with nothing else. Sure, you can camp in my dirt. We have a garden for you to take care of 8 hours a day. And there was a guy that was literally trying to pull this off, that was overtly bisexual, that when he got really intoxicated, you know, I had never really come across a guy that openly flirtatious. And I don't really want to get into all the different mannerisms, but it's like nails to the chalkboard. There was a video that I did promoting. We're doing like a mini documentary on him showing his family's farm in Canby, Oregon. But it seemed like he was really doing that for his own agenda, to feed his own sex demons, to invite more men and women that he might find interesting onto his land, to enhance his own personal playtime. That's what I observed. And then I thought to myself, well, then that means, if he was listed on the Woofing website, that there isn't quality control. Making sure that some of these institutions and organizations, oh no, we're doing it, absolutely. Intentional community, come help me grow all this stuff. Oh, yeah, I got work for you to do. And it's like, we've been so, a lot of us have been so domesticated, right? And the idea of just, living sustainably off the grid, it can be almost like utopian, like so beautiful, like just build it and they will come. Just like go out in nature and be enlightened. And I've realized that's not the case. I've described you on a social level. It's more isolating for me to live here than anywhere I have previously resided anywhere. Even in Costa County, in the middle of nowhere, I had some allies. This right now, even if I'm at this point now at 50,000 subscribers, each of you, all of you are very far away from me, ironically. From a spiritual perspective, I think maybe I'm going through a test. I'm not fully looking at this from a victim perspective. I think a lot of things happen in this universe for a reason. I meant to survive what I'm going through off the grid all alone, without my own security allies. So I just want to bring this back home to circle, but living like that hardens a person. There is a thickening of one's skin that's necessary. Sometimes it takes several years to develop a thickening of a certain level of skin, or another way to say that is electromagnetic field or aura. You know, thick skin, thick field, strong consciousness, strong field, you know, a lot of these things, these terms are actually describing the same thing based on our understanding. Some people don't believe that there are energy fields or magnetic fields that are animating everything. That science has proven this. And so they look away from things like that. This is actually important because let's bring this back to a third example. I'm a sensitive person, and I need to be around people that are stable, that don't have ongoing drug problems, that aren't low energy. And certain people have their own agenda to open up their home and saying anybody can come stay with me. And I've seen people do this, and there were certain times in which I was traveling looking for a place to go where I was set in odd directions by odd individuals that weren't even my friends online, but they seemed to be really motivated about getting me to go to their bro's house. Yeah, man, he's like with Rainbow and Yo, and people come and go, Yo. And I didn't really know this guy too well anyways online, but it was also like people can get really egotistical if somebody doesn't like one of their friends, especially when you haven't even met him and you've just known this person on the internet. So it's like, without actually talking to somebody, it's hard to get a readout for whether you're being sent on a wild goose chase, or whether it's something legitimate. But the town was Paonia, where the house was, Paonia, Colorado, where anybody can go and whatnot. And the people that were there were very low energy, and one thing that I've realized in my travels and being from Portland and discussing some of these ideas and concepts, it turns a lot of people off that may also like to enjoy cannabis, which I enjoy. But I also see the dangers in it. In some people, it doesn't bring out a kind of openness. It brings out kind of a closed, kind of dark cloud. And being around other people, they have the dark cloud going on and maybe nowhere to go, and a sense of community around that energy of desperation. In some cases, anger. So I've been around a lot of other fellow lower income individuals or travelers. And it seems that we have very little in common, even though I've been homeless for a short period of time, traveled in an RV. There are certain things that are very different between myself and I guess your average all-American traveling hippie in a vehicle. I think a lot of those are based on trivial perceptions. I've heard all throughout my life that people just think there's something about me that they think is law enforcement. There's something about me that I think is Republican. Or with others today, Libtard, Democrat. He's actually secretly batting for Clinton because I'm not getting behind the Trump train. It changes every few years based on the dominant ideologies of the moment. So in a few years, there'll be maybe new people that are in the stage, on the world stage. And people at that time in a few years may seem that, well, if you're not with this person, you've got to be with this person because that's just how humans are. You have to pick sides. And this is still something that a lot of people don't understand. I am an individual on a unique path, even to describe what it is that I do online, beyond YouTube. We're more than YouTubers. We're content creators. But it's like, what is the exact title for that? To me, it's outside the box. And a lot of these people don't understand that. I've seen some people that under normal circumstances, you'd think, hey, we would be friends. Somebody told this group of rainbow-related individuals, was it last year? Oh, this guy, he's a reporter. Stay away from him. Stay away from reporters. So because reporters is a certain connotation, and I don't even work with a particular organization. But just because I make videos on YouTube, broadcaster, reporter, journalist, became my title. That guy over there is XYZ, and then a connotation with, well, stay away from that. We're going to stay away from the journalist. And it's like, actually, the way I view what I do here, sure, it could be citizen journalism, but there's so much more philosophy involved. So I feel that there is the real lack of intelligence, the idiocracy element of our society seems to rear its ugly head in a lot of different elements of the society, even amongst people that act like they're counterculture. That's what I'm getting at. Even people today that act like they're counterculture and all love and whatnot, they still seem locked in a paradigm where judging a guy who has his hair short. I mean, I just naturally don't have the dreadlock look. I just don't. I don't try to look like a jock. I think that it is important that I don't become super thin and feminine. And I don't think that I could. I think that I'd have to really starve myself. But there could be certain elements of me that some of those individuals act like they're unable to trust. And that's not my problem. You know, I look at a lot of these intentional communities, happy, shiny people holding hands, and a lot of them are able to coexist in those environments because they're able to adapt to the collective hive mind consciousness. They're able to relinquish their individuality. And I can't do that. I'm a person that talks about things I talk about on my YouTube channel. That is number one to me. And I realize even if I may take some time off from that, that is number one to me. If anything, my community are people like you that are watching videos like this, that appreciate the ideas that I share. And even if I've spoken harshly about, you know, the internet in general place in our relationships, it would be better to build mindful relationships online than to have dirty relationships with people in the so-called real world. That's why I went back and took a local fast food job briefly to deal with some car repair issues and other things, and come back to doing this full time, turning my internet back on. Because I've been pretty much, I cut my internet to really kind of observe my own thoughts, spend more time in meditation, spend more time writing, spend more time walking around the land, which is just an acre. But I just walk around in circles, I guess maybe like an ancient Sufi, just pondering the nature of reality, walking in circles. Walking in circles. What is a mindful, intentional community? Are we really evolving as a human species? What steps do we need to take in our own lives to be able to experience things like that? For myself, and be willing to work and help someone else without expecting to be paid for the knowledge of how to build that tiny home. That's been the willingness that I've had for years. What's required? Well, I probably shouldn't, in a lot of cases, talk about anything that I know. But in that case, I have to relinquish my sovereign individual self that speaks his mind and likes to share ideas with people he's working with or maybe developing friendships with. It would be awesome to meet a bro out there in Colorado or elsewhere that shares similar ideas, that's working on a home, you know, it's a decent time in the space reality, and we're not running for our lives from code enforcement or some other threat. Now, on that note, I think that there is going to be a lot of people that the Creator may bring together during chaotic times. We may be unhappy that we haven't found our mindful, intentional community. And I would say, like, you know, at least a group of 2 to 3 to start with, up to 5. I don't have experience with large groups, nor do I come from a large family. But, yes, certain people can form into cliques and have mindful, intentional communities. I just don't think that they're so mindful, in my opinion, they would be to others. Where you have an agreement amongst the members and they're working to help each other survive. It's a tribe. Tribalism. And because tribalism is alive and well, and especially in cities like Portland, amongst the counterculture, and who can be more, ooh, I know it all, I'm so cooler than you are through my fashion, those are cliques based on common values. I just don't think that they're mindful. Mindful, ponder this. And then we'll close. But we can come back to this in the future. I like to expand the engagement with my audience on important topics that will be important in the future. I'm open to suggestions for forums. I could use some volunteers to maybe help organize some of these things. I think these conversations are not being had. But what would be the main tenets of a mindful, intentional community? The men respect each other. There isn't like one man trying to be alpha man. It isn't about one couple, for example, and what they're going to get from other people that come and visit their property, help them build X, Y, Z, so they can live in it temporarily, but they're not going to own it. There are people out there that only have the blueprint of slavery within them. It's man's nature to manipulate other humans in that way. And so I'm bringing this up because I've seen it over and over and over again, and that seems to be the template with a lot of these supposed sustainable communities, is people working for other people in the same rules of slavery applying on a local level. Just because we're taking the corporations out of it, just because we're taking the landlords out of it, doesn't mean that the tenets of slavery aren't being held up subconsciously by those supposed leaders. And so these are things to think about. I've mentioned before, and I don't have any advice of how to necessarily organize one of these. I think sometimes they just come about through good luck and praying for it and like attracting like the law of attraction. So I think like cells coming together. So we think about like people that don't have major sex problems, lust problems, and jealousy issues. So you think about men and women working with other men and women. Some are single, some are couples. Somehow they're able to get the job done, right? And it would be nice if certain communities could draw more people that haven't been totally broken by the society. I want to come back and talk about modern relationships, but a lot of people have been, to use the word broken, I mean, it's relative. You can unbreak yourself, you can heal yourself, but a lot of people are to a certain degree broken with regards to their ability, and I'm not saying I'm any different. Because of things that have happened to us in this day and age, the way we relate to the opposite sex, the people that we're attracted to, things have become very complicated when they really shouldn't be that complicated. The media influence over the breakdown of relationships, family aside, but the media influence, this is strong. There's a quote that I have that's original to me. You can take the person out of Babylon, you can't necessarily take Babylon out of the person. And that relates to the amount of people that have brought their problems that they had with them from the city years ago into their off-grid realities and dealings with others. There's a lot of angry Californians that came here decades ago to Colorado, that have been here for decades, that are pissed off SOBs. They are pissed off. They came here from California. They were here before the other Californians and the other people from other states. Damn it, their life really sucks now. And let me just tell you, I've seen a lot of, there sure are a lot of people that work hard to live in places like this, natural environments, that are very anti-nature and what nature does include, what nature does influence, what nature is a part of, what comes from nature. There are many people who don't even realize they're anti-nature and anti-what nature creates, while wishing to live in rural parts of America. There is an inversion. And we can go deeper into this, and that's the part of myself that comments on spiritual matters. And this is something that a lot of intentional communities might find crazy, right? But we still deal with that. We still deal with that sabotage within communities that we would call the archonic interference or the lower self, or the darker self that feeds on the drama, that feeds on the lower emotions. And mindful intentional communities have to deal with that. They have to deal with those negative moments that come. How does a group stay together when they're building something and they're building a home, and all of a sudden someone's having a breakdown and creating drama with other individuals, and the breakdown situation has the ability to derail not only the building project, but the whole idea of building community itself. Somebody could say, you know what, screw this, and screw people, I'm just going to be in this for myself. Everybody get out. Get out. You can all be because of that one thing. But was that one person entirely clean in their dealings? What if somebody was sleeping around? All of a sudden they're finding themselves with a lot of people, and there's a lot of community, and it's time to share energy. But are they always sharing energy, and are they always being honest with all the partners that they're with when they bed down with something or someone else? And so that's something to think about. You know, a lot of people start building resources, and they start seeing what they've got, and they could be derailed by something, one of their own desires. Somebody could be married, a man could be married, and there could be, and that's the example I'm giving, not to cite something that I've seen, but something that I feel is going on. This is just happiness in general. But something could become, or someone could become very successful with a woman or with a group, and they can literally use one group or one woman to jump to another. And the same thing can go for a female. A female that goes through a cast of, it's like some kind of Mad TV with the water boy. Her little pet. In one of those skits. And I think some people do look at men, some women do view men as objects, just as women are looked at as sex objects by some men, and throughout history. The street literally cuts both ways. I've experienced that as well. that type of animalism. I'm offended by it. I'm disgusted by it. I'm not a piece of flesh. I'm not a little. It's a complicated world out there. So despite all this talk of progress and evolution, we talk about evolution. Spiritual evolution is important, and that's on the individual level. And you and I, at any point, can choose to be more mindful, to evolve spiritually, and to try to express that in our own lives. And that's a responsibility. Maybe we need to work on that mindful community amongst the cells of our own body first. A more mindful relationship with ourselves before going out and developing that with others. But despite all of this supposed progress in our society, I just want to remind you that there is no easy way to go out and just jump into a mindful, intentional community. If there was, we would be developing these things to completely create new paradigms. And we have a lot more information than we used to. New paradigm versus old paradigm. We have a lot more books available. We have a lot more YouTube channels available that talk about these things. You now have Facebook. We didn't have this a decade plus ago that can help you connect with someone instantaneously on the internet to go out and make attempts. There are full-on off-grid groups with hundreds of thousands of members where they just talk about how they want to go off-grid, but they never actually do. I'm not saying people aren't off-grid. I'm saying that there are whole, like simulated reality, like SimCity type websites and forums where people talk about the idea of going off the grid, and even people in this day and age saying, hey, I'm thinking about, letting a bunch of strangers come on my land so we can live free without the system and stuff in my Garden of Eden. And it's like what people think that you just walk away from the banks and you just walk away from police and you just walk away from highways and you just put a bunch of random people in the same circle and you're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out. This ain't the 70s. People don't work it out. They straight up start shit. People start things. Problems happen. I've been scared straight from a situation that happened to me several years ago. If you don't actually know someone, and this is difficult because a guy like me wants to know real friends beyond the internet. And because I make videos about a number of certain things, including spiritual warfare, people that are suffering from some of those ailments or entities could seek people out that they want to F with. This is beyond what some of you are able to understand. It's what comes with watching this channel. And with this explanation that I'm giving to you why my life is frustrating. It would be easier if it was just an off-grid channel. It would be easier if it was just if I was a Democrat and was trying to attract people like that, or a Republican, a Trump supporter, for example. Manga! It would be easier if I was any of these things. But actually, take that back. I know someone that's had some issues getting support for his private property disputes, and he is a Trump supporter. Although he does have some support, and I'm sure it comes from that, but when you go on the political independent end and choose to separate yourself, like I walked away from Democrats, and I walked away from mainstream Republicans. That doesn't leave you with much of a community. That leaves you with people that, in a lot of cases, at least on the surface, at least what I see is available. I don't see a lot. And I see something that's in its infancy. And I see something that has room for improvement. And I'm going to close here. Ultimately, in this collapse scenario that's coming, we're going to be thrust into intentional communities, whether mindful or not. And every voice matters, but not every intentional community are going to be based on freedom for all. Some are going to be based on taking. As I've said for many years, but I haven't gotten into it recently, there'll be gangs that just simply hunt women for sale during the collapse of America. And I just think it's like perverse that today's YouTube researcher to today's American doesn't really talk about those things. They talk about various Hamburger-Gate-like potential realities happening now, but not where all this could really go in the end. 22 trillion in debt we're approaching. People concerned about the bond market. I've been saying for years, just speaking intuitively, that the number one asset historically during collapses are women, and unfortunately, because we're still in that dark world that we haven't actually evolved out of, we're still in that dark forest. People have actually just been in denial. This is what I've been saying for many, many years. These barbaric traits, and this is what concerns me, from mankind's past, it's still here. And it's emerging. It's like reptilian barbarian activation time in elements of the society. You look at elements of the society that are addicted to elements of disinformation online, and it's like there's a sea of potential sleeper agents out there, waiting for the right moment. It seems like the 2020s coming up during a collapse scenario, we could see a lot of communities of people hurting other humans. So the most basic survival idea of a community is people coming together to help each other survive and stay alive. From the other community members that are literally fingering people and saying, go after that one, go after that one. Well, what if you have a situation where you have a lot of people but no food? You have cannibalism. You would have tribes then, cannibal tribes, that would be deciding, like at Survivor Island, who lives and who dies. So who's the desirable, who's the undesirable, who are the people in that particular time-space reality, wherever it might be, that may be considered to be the outsiders or the undesirables? How would they be treated in a situation where there is no food? So you see, just like the ancient world, did you know that martial arts, in its origin, is believed to be something that matured in the temples of China after being introduced to them by a man from India, a wandering Indian monk, and that the purpose of the Buddhist monks train at the original Shaolin Temple, and then also train others to be there fighting for them, according to other stories, or maybe later on in time while they focused on their meditation. But the idea was to defend themselves against bandits, roaming bandits that would roam the eastern countryside. It's like how much has really changed in our society when that's the very exact same threat that we face in America's future. Roaming bandits, kidnapping women, in America's future grid-down dystopian reality as if we didn't see this coming. I saw this coming over a decade ago, and America doesn't respond very well to being warned about things like that. It doesn't respond very well. It doesn't show its appreciation. It's a troubling future. That is a future in which I don't want to be so close to those danger zones. I don't want to be fighting off those tribal intentional communities of people that are going after the people they consider to be weaker or undesirable. I want to be outside of those danger zones. I'm not fully comfortable here. Would I rather take my chances here than at sea level for a variety of different reasons? Take my chances here alone with a limited supply of food? The answer is yes. There is way too much disturbance in the societal force, if you will. There was a day and time, and I'm thinking years ago, when I would hold meetups, survival meetups. And I would advertise them on flyers at co-ops and Portland Cable Access. And the idea that I was trying to spearhead way back in 2007, even 2008, these meetups, only a couple years after starting my Portland Cable Access TV show, Outside the Box, was to get people talking within our community, talking about food supplies and ordering bulk foods for cheaper prices. I was making attempts to get people that knew things to join our Sunday get-togethers if they knew something about edible plants or some sort of a survival skill, including the idea of getting out of Portland the exact routes to take out of Portland in the event of an event. Getting out by foot, getting out by bike. And then also later on, by 2010, 2011, I was thinking in my imagination, I don't like Sam Adams, the former council member. But if he was like legitimate, right, about, just like a happy ending, if he was legitimate about caring about the people of Portland, he's no longer in office. He's been involved with a lot of official left-controlled organizations regarding what they consider to be sustainability. So I see him as being part of one of them has also had trips to Shanghai, had trips to China, this former council member and mayor, Sam Adams. But I thought, you know what, if he was legitimate and was going to play a positive role in like a survival type of breakdown situation, what if him or some other leader were to organize an intentional community amongst urban folks to where they call it the Grand Bike Project. There's like a super long bike, and they're hauling truckloads of food and or water and or other supplies, resources on this massive bike with multiple people on it powering this load. And I'm sure there can be other different types of bike designs, but it's like for a bike city like Portland, and they like to pride themselves on being sustainable, they're not very sustainable. It was all an image to really sell the city and jack up the real estate prices, which created more homelessness, as we've seen more flight from New York, from California, into places like Portland, where I had to flee as a result of that strain. But how would people in an urban situation, in a grid-down situation, form intentional communities so they could defend themselves and obtain their resources, food and water? So it really comes down to those things. Protecting themselves includes people protecting their daughters and their wives. And men being confident enough with firearms or not to be able to figure out an effective way amongst themselves in their community to be the most effective at collectively, collectivists, yes, collectively a block, working together to save their own ass. And so for people in urban environments, it is necessary to know your neighbor. And in other situations, it may be best that you not know your neighbor. Because the greater reality is, in some areas, time-space realities, neighbors could be the greater threat than standing armies. Especially when you're dealing with communities where there's meth cooking going on, alcoholism, extremist groups that are building slowly under the radar. These are actually things that are happening in off-grid communities all throughout America. It's not all kumbaya. In some cases, it's something straight out of deliverance. And that is something on an individual level that someone has to ask themselves, are those communities in off-grid areas going to be safe in the end if the local demographic and census reality has its own dark cloud above its head? These are all different things to be considered. So there's a benefit to being in the urban environment and disadvantage. Same thing with rural. But ultimately, when society goes down a certain direction, it's important that we adapt to situations where we may be on our own. You know, where in certain emergencies, digging a hole or evacuating, but within distance, maybe even planning, although this isn't very possible in a fire, it could be possible in other emergencies, including homelessness, right? If you have the gas money and you have the car, would you rather park, for example, in an urban environment outside somebody's house where they have kids, where they don't want the homeless around, or would you rather be in the national forest? Would you rather be off the grid? And so, because I did create a lot of media over the course of a decade in Portland, Oregon, and found myself living in my vehicle throughout the entirety of that period, there was a sense of knowing, and that knowing set me free. The decade of activism meant nothing to those people, nothing whatsoever, nor what I had gone through, and that their own current challenges with the cost of rent and what they're facing and going through. And I talked about the electromagnetic bombardment and how it reduces our health and our healthy magnetic field. That can cause a more apathetic, not empathetic, not sympathetic, but a more apathetic society. These are warning signs of societal breakdown. And when society is breaking down and people are fighting the streets like they are now, where they might as, in a lot of cases, be on the same side years ago. If we were not divided by design, we would be on the same side. in some cases. Although people might find ways to divide. Without this manufactured left-right divide that was thrown at us or we were born into, because it was here before we were born, most of us. In many circumstances, we would be on the same side. It's like something out of that movie Crybaby, where there's like Johnny Depp and he's with like the rowdy crowd or like the outsider type crowd, and then there's like the squares. Don't be a square, man. It's like we see this like left-right divide. You're cool, you're not. This duality all throughout society, let alone references from the '60s social pop culture period. And so, my last thoughts. To live in isolation off the grid as I do is not easy. And I wouldn't be doing it if I felt that there were mindful communities around me. In fact, I've seen people that have used social media to target, humiliate, and alert communities about potential intentional communities that may be entering their area. They're upset that there are many homeless that they're seeing. They're afraid that intentional communities are going to be helping the homeless, and people are targeted that help the homeless in today's day and age, on the internet, on social media. And there are various examples of this. And this, in today's day and age, being that social media is facilitating such harassment, you're only hearing so much about Facebook and what Facebook facilitates and what it's used for. There's so much more than what you're thinking. And this is very, very sad. Like, these are the types of things that make someone go, why even try and help other humans or be around other humans, when they seem to gravitate more to the negative and harassing people and stalking people and using the internet for those purposes, as opposed to people showing people on the internet what mindful, intentional community looks like, whether it be amongst internet, YouTube researchers, conspiracy researchers, or other off-gridders coming together to stand up for their own property rights. Once a story gets out there to the national news that people are being kicked off their land, again, flashback to 2015, Costilla County, what I and others did. We showed the world what was happening. Yeah, and people can complain about the government and share conspiracies about Agenda 21, but when it comes to brass tacks, what did those people do to stand up for their fellow countrymen that were being kicked off their land? Or to start a website or a YouTube channel or a forum to help people gather and have real discussions? Absolutely nothing from what I understand. And that is rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness and this type of subliminal belief that somebody else should do it, should bear that responsibility. And it's like, no. No, Facebook isn't meant to be used to entertain ourselves. We should be organizing with such a powerful tool that our ancestors never had. And it's like pearls before swine on a collective level. Pearls before swine. There are a lot of people that will just absorb themselves in the addictive element of digital communities, but they aren't working to build the real communities. Thus, in the end, the system still wins. The dollar still rules, right? And all those people that will strip on the pole in order for that dollar. And I mean metaphorically and figuratively. I do believe that mankind, womankind, has the ability to supersede all these control systems. We need to find each other. Sometimes I think it's really just a matter of faith or fate in something divine or spiritual, by accident bringing 2 to 3 to 4 of us together at the same time and space reality. So I want to leave you with that. Pray for this. In the meantime, let us work on ourselves as individuals. Let us work on our own shortcomings. We don't necessarily have to share what those are with the rest of the world. I happen to share a lot because I see benefit in helping some of you realize these things. You know, for years people will tell me, Alex, you say things that I think about that I don't hear from others. And that's why someone like me comes under attack from certain people. The idea of community, of people coming together over a similar idea, comes under attack. It comes under spiritual attack. And it just so happens that I happen to talk also about the Archons on this channel. So my life is not easy. There's a buffet, an array of information. My hopes, first and foremost, is that you subscribe right now to this channel. That you check out offgridco.com. That if you're interested in assisting me in ideas, articles, blogs, editing, offgridco.com has, in my opinion, and I'm being totally honest with you, I believe that it could reach millions of people with enough people sharing information on that domain. And I think it's a little bit early to be like trying to go for something like this, but if there were professionals working with me, where it wasn't just Alex Ansary working by himself with basically a low-grade camera from like 10 years ago and an audio recorder, editing to sync this and do this just so I can survive. If there were more of us working together, pulling our resources and our video production capabilities, creating like an off-grid media studio, I believe that we could change the world. But how does something like that happen? How do people like that meet? How do people like that find my channel? How do people like me find them? Because sometimes it seems like the creator is showing me what other people are doing. And sometimes there's a crisscross of ideas. And while like we may not find that crisscross of ideas with people of like minds in our community, I can find like a crisscross of ideas or an overlap in understanding from some people. Somebody could be watching my channel from Australia and be communicating with me over Facebook text, and then be sharing a link with me about like this film that he made. I'll be showing clips of that film with you. And you can subscribe to his channel. And it's like, here I am sharing this information with this brother down in Australia, and he's been watching my channel for years, and he's also seen the same years of significance, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, but also moving up to 2025, and he almost has a more optimistic view than I do. Almost like all this is coming up to a head, this collapse, and people are being thrust into it, but innately we have the solution within us. It is ourselves. It is stepping back from the feeding on the bones of the dying world, and then turning towards ourselves, not to feed on ourselves, but to work together. And I do believe that things would be fairly chaotic in a collapse scenario. But over time, in certain pockets of the planet, certain pockets of the nation, certain pockets of your community, there could be people living in peace, working together with a garden, feeding each other. Across town, the building could be on fire. People could be burning. Somebody could be assaulted. In another area, people could be working together to keep each other sane and safe. Like attracts like. The process begins now. So those are my thoughts, contemplations on the mindful, intentional community. And this conversation is not over. Check out the links down below if you have the financial means to become a monthly supporter of what it is that I'm trying to do here on YouTube. And illuminate certain ideas, introduce certain concepts, outside-the-box ideas to various people around the world while I have this technology. Please sign up at Patreon. The link is down below. I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within.